John Harris stared out his living room window, his weathered hands wrapped around a lukewarm cup of coffee. The quiet suburban street stretched before him, unchanging and predictable. At 50, he had settled into a routine that felt more like a rut with each passing day. The clock on the mantel ticked away its steady rhythm, a reminder of time slipping by. With a sigh, he set down his mug and grabbed his worn gardening gloves. At least the roses needed tending. As he knelt in the dirt, John had just begun pruning when a moving truck rumbled down the street, stopping at the house next door. Curious, he peered over the fence. New neighbors, he muttered to himself. It had been years since anyone new had moved to Maple Drive. As he watched, movers began unloading odd-looking furniture and strange pulsating orbs. His brow furrowed in confusion. Just then, a figure emerged from the truck that made John's jaw drop. She was tall, easily over 6 feet, with limbs that seemed too long and graceful to be human. But it was her skin that truly stunned him. It shimmered and glowed with an otherworldly light. As she turned, John caught a glimpse of her eyes, a mesmerizing deep violet that seemed to look right through him. Heart racing, he ducked behind the fence. An alien, an actual extraterrestrial, had just moved in next door. "John, you all right over there?" He jumped at the sound of his elderly neighbor's voice. Mrs. Peterson peered at him from her porch, concern etched on her face. "Fine. Just fine," John called back weakly. "Did you see?" Mrs. Peterson nodded, her eyes wide. "I've never seen anything like it. Do you think we should call someone?" Before John could answer, a melodic voice floated over the fence. "Hello, neighbors. I am Tanai. I hope I'm not disturbing anyone with my arrival." John slowly stood, coming face to face with his new alien neighbor. Up close, her beauty was even more striking. Her skin seemed to pulse with an inner light, casting a soft glow around her. "Hello," John stammered. "I'm John. Welcome to the neighborhood." Tanai's violet eyes crinkled as she smiled. "Thank you," John replied awkwardly, feeling heat rise in his cheeks. "Where exactly are you from, if you don't mind me asking?" "Oh, a planet you've likely never heard of, Eliza," she replied casually, as if discussing a move from another state rather than another solar system. Mrs. Peterson had made her way over, gaping openly at Tanai. "Good Lord," she muttered. "I never thought I'd see the day." Tanai turned her dazzling smile on the older woman. "And you are Margaret Peterson. I bake you a welcome pie," Mrs. Peterson said faintly, holding out a dish. John hadn't noticed before how thoughtful Tanai was as she reached for the pie. When she did, her fingers brushed John's arm. A jolt of electricity seemed to pass between them, making him gasp. Tanai's eyes locked onto his as a knowing look passed over her face. "I do hope we'll become good friends, John," she purred. John swallowed hard, unsure how to respond. This was certainly not how he'd expected his day to go when he woke up that morning. As days passed, John found himself constantly distracted by his new neighbor. He'd catch glimpses of Tanai through his window, her graceful form moving about her yard or lounging on her porch. More than once he looked up to find her watching him with those mesmerizing violet eyes. Their interactions started small, a wave over the fence or a brief good morning as they collected their mail. But soon, Tanai began seeking him out more frequently. One afternoon as John watered his garden, Tanai appeared at the fence. "Your flowers are lovely," she said, her voice like music. "On Asa," she continued enthusiastically, "we have plants that sing when they bloom. Perhaps I could show you sometime." John nearly dropped the hose in surprise. "That sounds incredible," he managed to say. "I'd like that," Tanai replied with an infectious smile. "Excellent. It's a date then." Before John could process her words further, she was gone, leaving him flustered and intrigued. The next day, while trimming his hedges, he heard commotion from Tanai's yard. Peering over the fence again, he saw her struggling with what appeared to be a large pulsating plant. "Need a hand?" he called out before he could stop himself. Tanai looked up. Relief was evident on her face. "Oh, John." "Yes, please. This Lumina bush is being quite stubborn." John made his way into her yard. His eyes widened at the alien flora surrounding him. The plant Tanai wrestled with seemed to glow from within its leaves, shimmering with an iridescent sheen. "What exactly do you need me to do?" he asked cautiously as he approached. Tanai gestured to a spot behind the plant. "If you could just hold it steady while I replant it, that would be wonderful." John nodded and moved into position. As he gripped the plant's trunk, a warm tingling sensation spread through his hands. He gasped, nearly letting go. "Oh, don't mind that," Tanai said with a laugh. "It's just saying hello." John watched in amazement as Tanai deftly maneuvered the plant into a new pot. Her movements were fluid, almost hypnotic, and he found himself staring captivated by the play of light across her skin. "There we go," Tanai said triumphantly as she turned to him with sparkling violet eyes. "Thank you for your help. I don't know what I'd do without such a kind neighbor." She stepped closer. John's head swam as an intoxicating scent enveloped him. "It was my pleasure," he said softly, his voice huskier than he'd intended. Tanai's gaze lingered on him, a hint of something primal flickering in their depths. "Perhaps you'd like to stay for a drink. I have a beverage from my homeworld I think you'd enjoy." John knew he should decline. This whole situation was bizarre, potentially dangerous even, but something about Tanai drew him in, made him want to know more. "I'd love to," he heard himself say. Tanai's smile was radiant as she beckoned him inside. A feeling washed over him that this moment was far beyond anything he'd ever experienced before. As John followed her into the house, he couldn't shake off the feeling that he was stepping into something extraordinary. A blend of earth furnishings and alien technology surrounded him as orbs of light hovered near the ceiling, casting soft glows throughout the space. "Make yourself comfortable," Tanai said, gesturing toward an unusual-looking couch. It seemed to shift and mold itself to John's body as he sat down, while Tanai busied herself at what John assumed was the kitchen area, even though it bore little resemblance to any kitchen he'd ever seen before. Strange, colorful liquids bubbled in transparent containers like potions waiting for their magic moment. "So, Tanai," John began, trying to sound casual despite his racing heart rate, "what brings you to Earth, specifically our little suburb?" Tanai turned with a knowing smile on her face. "Curiosity, mainly. Your planet has fascinated me for some time. And as for this neighborhood," her eyes locked onto John's intensely, "let's just say I had a feeling I'd find something interesting here." John's mouth went dry before he could formulate any response. Then suddenly she returned with 2 glasses filled with shimmering opalescent liquid. "Here we are," she said, handing him 1 glass. "A special brew from Eliso. I think you'll find it quite stimulating." John took a cautious sip. The liquid danced on his tongue, leaving tingling sensations in its wake. Heat spread through his body, and suddenly everything felt warmer around them both. "This is remarkable," John exclaimed, slightly strained, but genuinely impressed by its taste. Tanai beamed back at him. "I'm so glad you like it. You know, John, I've been meaning to ask you something." She leaned in closer, the intoxicating scent enveloping him again, causing butterflies in his stomach. John felt dizzy, whether from drink or proximity. It didn't matter anymore. "Yes," he managed, finally croaking out. "I was wondering if you might show me around town sometime. Everything here is so new and exciting. I'd love to experience it with someone who knows the area." Her request seemed innocent enough, but there was an undercurrent in those words John couldn't quite place. It made him nod before fully processing what she'd asked. "Great!" exclaimed Tanai, clapping hands together, the motion causing ripples across skin glowing brightly. "It's officially a date then." There was that word again, date. John's head spun wildly. Was he reading too much into this? Surely an alien wouldn't be interested in him like that. And even if she was that crossing some sort of interplanetary line? As if sensing internal struggle brewing within John's mind, T placed hand gently upon arm, a stronger jolt coursing between them this time. "John," she said softly, now looking deeply into those violet pools filled with mystery. "I hope I'm not being too forward. It's just there's something about you. I felt it the moment I saw you." John stared back, feeling drawn irresistibly closer towards those mesmerizing depths. The connection felt electric yet comforting all at once. I felt it too," he admitted, finally breaking silence, but still unsure where this would lead them both next. T's smile turned mischievous now, the kind that ignited sparks within hearts racing wildly against unknown futures ahead. "Those are best kinds of experiences, don't you think?" she asked teasingly, leaning closer still until mere inches separated them both now. "Ones that shake us out our routines, make us feel alive again." Her words hit John like physical force, sending ripples throughout entire being, reminding him how far removed life had become lately. And just like that, their journey together began, unfolding beneath stars shining brightly overhead, illuminating paths yet unknown ahead, waiting patiently for them both. As the days turned into weeks, John found himself increasingly enchanted by Tnai. Their encounters became more frequent, each one filled with laughter and curiosity. Tnai's unique perspective on life, her stories about her home planet Eliza, and her vibrant personality drew him in like a moth to a flame. John realized he was experiencing something he had never felt before, a connection that transcended the ordinary. Exploring differences. One sunny afternoon, Tnai invited John to join her for a tour of the neighborhood. "I want to show you my favorite spots," she exclaimed, her violet eyes sparkling with excitement. John felt a rush of anticipation. This was more than just a casual outing. It was an opportunity to delve deeper into Tnai's world. They began their journey at the local park, where children played and families picnicked under the shade of sprawling oak trees. Tnai marveled at the sight. "On Eliza, we don't have parks like this," she said, her voice filled with wonder. "We have floating gardens that drift through the skies." John chuckled at the image. "Floating gardens? That sounds amazing. Do they really float?" "Yes," Tnai replied enthusiastically. "They are held aloft by special gases in the atmosphere. People can walk among them, and they bloom with colors that change with the seasons." As they strolled through the park, John shared stories of his childhood, playing baseball with friends, riding bikes down the neighborhood streets, and camping under the stars. In return, Tnai described her own childhood on Eliza, how she and her friends would chase shimmering light creatures that danced in the air, and how they celebrated life with grand festivals. An invitation to experience tradition. After their park visit, Tnai turned to John with an excited glint in her eyes. "I want you to experience something special from my culture. My species' mating season is coming up soon. Would you like to join me for the festivities?" John's heart raced at the thought. Mating season. What does that involve? Tnai laughed lightly, a sound that sent shivers down John's spine. "It's a time of celebration. We gather together to honor love and connection. There are dances, music, and rituals that bring us closer together." "That sounds incredible," John replied, feeling a mix of excitement and nervousness. He had never participated in anything like this before. "Great. I'll teach you some of our traditions," Tnai said, her eyes gleaming with enthusiasm. Preparing for the festival. The days leading up to the festival were filled with preparation. Tnai introduced John to various aspects of Elizan culture. She taught him how to make colorful garlands from glowing flowers that would be worn during the celebrations. They spent hours crafting together in her backyard, laughter echoing through the air as they shared stories and created beautiful decorations. Tnai also explained the significance of each ritual they would participate in during mating season. "We believe that love is a powerful force that connects all beings," she told him one evening as they sat under the stars in her garden. "The rituals are meant to honor that connection and celebrate our bonds." John listened intently, captivated by Tnai's passion for her culture. He felt honored to be included in such an important event. The night of celebration. Finally, The night of the festival arrived. The air was electric with anticipation as John donned his outfit, a blend of traditional Elysian attire and his own style, bright colors adorned with shimmering patterns that reflected light beautifully. As he walked over to Tanai's house, he could hear music drifting through the air, a blend of alien melodies that resonated deep within him. When he arrived, he was greeted by a stunning sight. Tanai stood before him in a breathtaking gown made of flowing fabric that shimmered like starlight. "You look amazing," John exclaimed, awestruck by her beauty. "Thank you. You clean up nicely yourself," she replied with a playful wink. Together, they joined a gathering of Tanai's friends and family in her backyard, transformed into a vibrant celebration space filled with lights and decorations they had made together. Dancing under stars. As night fell, they began dancing beneath a canopy of stars. The music swelled around them, an enchanting blend of sounds that seemed to resonate with nature itself. John felt alive as he moved alongside Tanai. Their bodies swayed together in perfect harmony. "Feel the rhythm," Tanai encouraged him as she twirled gracefully around him. John laughed as he attempted to mimic her movements. Despite his awkwardness, he couldn't help but enjoy every moment spent immersed in this alien world. As they danced, Tanai leaned closer and whispered softly into his ear about their customs, the meaning behind each step and gesture, and John felt an overwhelming sense of belonging wash over him. A moment of connection. After hours of dancing and celebrating, they settled down on soft cushions arranged around a glowing fire pit. The flickering flames illuminated their faces as they shared stories about love from their respective worlds. John spoke about his parents' enduring relationship, while Tanai recounted tales from Eliza about soulmates finding each other across vast distances. "Love knows no boundaries," she said thoughtfully after listening intently to John's stories. "Exactly," he replied softly, feeling an unspoken bond forming between them, a connection deeper than words could express. Just then, a group of Tanai's friends approached them carrying glowing orbs filled with swirling colors. Each orb represented different emotions connected to love, joy, passion, trust. "Would you like one?" one friend asked cheerfully, holding out an orb toward John. He hesitated for just a moment before reaching out. Accepting it felt like embracing everything this night symbolized. The excitement of new beginnings mingled with hope for what lay ahead. A night to remember. As midnight approached, Nai stood up suddenly. "It's time for our final ritual." Her voice rang out clearly above the music. "What do we do?" John asked, eagerly following her lead as everyone gathered around them, forming a circle filled with laughter and anticipation. "We will release our orbs into the sky," she explained, brightly holding hers high above head, the glow illuminating her features beautifully. John watched as everyone began releasing their orbs into air. Each one floated upward, bursting into vibrant colors against dark canvas above, a breathtaking display painting night sky. "Now you," urged Tanai excitedly, nudging him forward, gently encouraging him release his own orb too. With heart racing once again, he raised it high above head, feeling warmth radiate through fingertips before letting go completely, watching it soar upwards, joining others, creating dazzling spectacle illuminating everything around them. For just one fleeting moment, it felt as if time stood still. The world faded away, leaving only them, surrounded by beauty, magic unfolding all around. In that moment, John realized how profoundly this experience had changed him, how much he cared for this extraordinary being standing beside him, an alien who had opened up new horizons within heart-soul. As fireworks erupted overhead, lighting up sky, brilliantly illuminating entire neighborhood below, they shared knowing glance, exchanging unspoken promises between them both, a promise filled with hope, adventure waiting just beyond horizon ahead. This festival marked not just celebration love, but also beginning something beautiful between two worlds coming together, bridging gaps previously thought impossible.